Remember, guys, unity. Unity. Yeah. So I've covered this story already before. Just kind of a little bit of a side note in amidst a whole bunch of other stuff that came out of the Capitol Hill. But it bears repeating because it's going to the floor now. And this is becoming reality. And this could be dangerous precedent going forward. But all of this stuff is dangerous precedent. And it could just be the norm going forward for the outgoing party. And nobody wants to see that, but we just, I don't know, got to be aware of what the fuck's around the corner. Representative Cori Bush, I would say she's more or less the size of an entire forest, but if your last name is going to be Bush, you might as well just be as destructive as your surname allows. Introducing resolution to expel lawmakers who incited a white supremacist coup attempt. Oh, so she's racializing it even further. Yeah, when we covered it before, it was just, oh, these people are so mean for trying to, use the Constitution in order to, put a check on your cheats. I don't know. So yeah, Cori W. Bush, whom some consider the newest member. She is. I don't think anybody has to consider it. She's a part of the group. The squad is slated to introduce a resolution on Monday to expel lawmakers she alleges incited a white supremacist coup attempt last Wednesday as Congress met to certify electoral votes. Tomorrow, I'm introducing my resolution to expel the members of Congress who tried to overturn the election and incited a white supremacist coup attempt that has left people dead. Won't tell you how those people died or what any of the circumstances around that were. But it's just politically expedient to just say people died during that. H.W. Bush announced Sunday afternoon, concluding such lawmakers violated the 14th Amendment. Oh, go fuck your mother. We can't have unity without submission. Oh, I'm sorry, without healing. I'm sorry, without accountability. It's the rule of three in comedy. She added, Bush swiftly announced, I don't think she does anything swiftly, unless it's scarf the last couple of pieces of pastry off the plate. Her intentions to take action against Republican members of Congress following the chaos that erupted at the U.S. Capitol last week, accusing her GOP colleagues of inciting a domestic terror attack. If you call... I don't need to rehash that. That diminishes what actual terror attacks are, okay? It's like the Me Too movement diminishing what an actual rape is. But when you're a leftist, you can be fast and loose with words and definitions in order to enact your own supremacy movement. Yeah, domestic terror attack through the attempts to overturn the election, whatever. Here's a scientific poll that she cites. It's not. 98% of the calls my office has received from Missouri's 1st District about my resolution to expel, and also Ilhan Omar, great. Yes, what does it say here in the first line? Yeah, some consider newest member, but yet she just cites her friend and fellow Politburo member. Ilhan Omar and my resolution to impeach has been in support, I'm sure. Yeah, St. Louis, I hear you loud and clear. We will fight this together. Press X to doubt on 98% of the calls from fucking Missouri. And yeah, Cortez is also called for that as well because she's just fucking batshit crazy. And she was making her rounds yesterday on all the Sunday morning talk shows just saying, it's not enough. We need to get rid of that bad orange dictator. Oh, he's terrible. He's horrifying. Even though, as you can see here just off to the side, and I don't know if Breitbart's just dying a slow death or what the fuck the deal is, but Rasmussen, Donald Trump holds a 48% approval rating despite Capitol Hill riots. Yeah, and that tracks every single day, and his approval rating keeps going up because people with eyes and ears realize that what he said at Capitol Hill there was nothing inciting the actual violence that were there, and the people that breached the Capitol could not physically make it from the point of hearing him talk to being at the Capitol steps. But there is so much other shit coming out of that right now, and it's fucking bonkers. Probably won't do a video on it today, but yesterday when I put out my video saying that I'm pretty sure that everything's not 100% on the level, yeah, that's becoming a much more concrete position. Especially how Democrats on the left have weaponized this one event to become their second coming of 9/11 to push through all sorts of retarded legislation like this fucking attempt to weaponize the government against your political foes. What did they do that was illegal? Nothing. Hawley and Cruz did nothing. The House members did nothing. They gave good speeches in the chambers, which they are allowed to do. Okay? But no, we don't like what the bad white and Mexican people were saying, therefore we have to get rid of them. And yeah, so we got the legislation, and then we got pressure on Cruz and Hawley to resign from normalizing attack on the Capitol. Senator Patty Murray is calling on Senators Josh Hawley of Missouri, same state that Cori H.W. Bush is from. I'm going to keep using that. I haven't heard anybody else compare her to George W. or old Poppy Bush before, but I like it because they're just as destructive. And Ted Cruz of Texas to resign for the role they played in inciting violence and mayhem at the Capitol building this week that left 5 people dead. Senators Hawley and Cruz, both Republicans, were leading voices in the push to object to the Electoral College results. What did they say that actually insulted any violence? Oh, you can't cite the source because they didn't. Their objection was doomed to fail and widely viewed as a way for the 2 possible 2024 presidential contenders to score political points. Yes, thank you. We knew it was going to fall, but you don't have to fucking opinionate this. Washington Times, we get it. Patty Murray, the 3rd-ranking Democrat in the Senate, oh, terrific, said the job of Congress is to keep this country a democracy where voices win, not a brute force. I remind you what your fellow Democrat is attempting to do right now. Any senator who stands up and supports the power of force over the power of our democracy has broken their oath of office. Ugh, Senator Chris Coons also chimes in with his fucking hair-plugged opinion, saying that Cruz and Hawley should step down as well. Oh, but it's a bipartisan effort from the likes of Ben Sasse, yuck, who said in an interview with the great NPR that Mr. Hawley's decision to object to the Electoral College was really dumbass. This was a stunt. The Nebraskan Republican also said it was a terrible, terrible idea. I don't know, did the people who were saying that Cruz and Hawley were doing the bad things just kind of look at the Constitution and just pick out whatever amendments they like and want to just govern based on that? Or is the entire article up there just, maybe that was one of the things that one of the rioters just knocked down and they can no longer make it out and they're just going to go ahead and govern however they feel like it. It's pretty much how we've been living for the past, what has it only been 5 days since that point? That's how they've been governing in the House of Representatives since 2018. So it looks like the Senate's just finally hopping aboard now that they have this pseudo majority. But it's not enough to just have bad takes from your fellow colleagues and them trying to get you to either step down or being removed through legislative backlash. How about they're also coming for your law license? How about they also want to take you out of private life as well as public life? Thousands of law school alumni sign unconstitutional petition to disbar Cruz and Hawley. Well, that's my opinion on it, but it didn't stop them from drawing up this stupid fucking petition with absolutely bonkers basis. Actually, we've got the petition pulled up here and we'll just take a quick look through it. As you can see here, they mean business because it's a Google Doc and you can sign your name here at the bottom. Petition to disbar Senators Hawley and Cruz as of January 11th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Oh, so not but an hour before when I pressed record on this. Over 8,000 lawyers, and law students, have signed this petition, including over 1,900 members of the Missouri, Texas, and District of Columbia bars. Terrific. We, the undersigned members of the student and legal profession, call on the Missouri, Texas, and District of Columbia bars to immediately begin disbarment proceedings against Senators Hawley and Ted Cruz. Why would you? Why? What have they done? Here's their distorted effort to justify their dehumaning practices in leading the efforts to undermine the peaceful transition of power after a free and fair election. Hilarious. Senators Hawley and Cruz attack the foundations of our democracy. Very important. Very important. We'll read through the rest of this, but keep remembering how they always frame it as our democracy. Nearly 160 million Americans exercised their right to vote in November 2020 election. Dozens of courts rejected unfounded claims. They didn't even look at the claims of widespread voter fraud, and Electoral College formally ratified President-elect Biden's victory on December 14th, 2020. But it wasn't official until the vote was cast and certified on January 6th. But despite these clear expressions of the will of the people and with full knowledge of the implications of their actions, it's guaranteed by the Constitution, you fucking hacks. Senators Hawley and Cruz publicly announced their intentions to object to the Congress's certification of the Electoral College votes set for January 6, 2021. In doing so, Senators Hawley and Cruz directly incited the January 6th insurrection. Those are big words and huge claims that don't bear out whatsoever. If you listen to what Cruz said in the Senate and Hawley hadn't even spoke at the time. Nothing about that was a direct call to violence. So right now, this is just 8,000 misinformed individuals. Is the nicest way I can put it. Repeating dangerous and unsubstantiated statements regarding the election and abetting the lawlessness behavior of President Trump. These are lawyers and future lawyers, by the way. A violent mob attacked the U.S. Capitol. 5 people have died. 1 was shot by a police officer. 1 died of a heart attack. 1 died, we don't know how. The nation and the world watched as rioters took over the very halls and chambers that embodied our democracy. Yet, after the violence and terror of the day's events, Senators Hawley and Cruz still chose to stand in the chamber of the U.S. Senate and persist in their baseless objections and the will of the people. What about over half of the electorate thinking that there's something fishy about the election? You're just going to not mention that whatsoever? Oh yeah, that would probably destroy the legitimacy of your frankly illegitimate petition. We'll skip ahead because this is fucking retarded. The Missouri, Texas, and D.C. bars must begin disbarment proceedings against Senators Hawley and Cruz and send a message that the legal profession stands firmly in defense of our democratic institutions. They must do so whether or not Senators Hawley and Cruz plan to assume the roles of advocate and counselor ever again as private or public lawyers. We need them destroyed because we don't agree with what they have to say. And that was basically the gist of the legislation from Cori Bush there. And you know what? I'll link to this petition as well because there's a few paragraphs that we didn't go over there because I don't really find it to be terribly interesting. I just think that this is all kind of retribution for McCarthyism. Okay, all of these people who signed on to this, all 8,000 of those people were either young law students during the McCarthy hearings, if they're quite old at this point, or it was their parents or their grandparents, and this is all retribution. And part of me thinks that those House Un-Americans committees should have either succeeded in getting rid of all the communists, or they shouldn't have taken place in the first place because then this backlash wouldn't have continued, but then at the same time the communists would have just continued to rise up through the government, but then we would have just arrived at the exact same place that we have here. So none of this is about unity whatsoever, and I think regardless of what happened during those McCarthy hearings, and this is what this is being directly compared to because it absolutely is. People of different ideology who are now in power not agreeing with the people who speak up against power. You don't have to like Hawley or Cruz. I tend to think that they're, rather on the level people who've been speaking out against big tech and championing populist causes for quite a while now. I've been skeptical of Cruz, but at this point, there's very little skepticism left. What else this shows you too? 8,000 lawyers, 8,000 law students. This is the next wave of people coming in that are going to be the lawyers, that are going to be the public defenders, that are going to eventually be the politicians, okay? We kind of know that the next 4 years, 2 years at least, are going to be rough as fuck, okay? The writing's on the wall right now, and it's in populist blood, if you can't tell. Not literally, you assholes. But all of this legislation and all this call for disbarment of your political adversaries or the expulsion of people from public life from the younger representatives in the House. All of the old ones are just kind of just saber rattling saying, oh, you should resign. But they do that every single time that whenever something controversial comes up in the chamber. So you gotta fucking take that as just political theater, which most of this shit is. But when you have actual petitions and then you have retards in the House actually putting forward House resolutions in order to catapult people out of the fucking public life and private life in this sense here, you gotta stand up and take notice. So I'm not necessarily optimistic about the next generation coming up. Most people my age, I'm 30. I think my point of view is vastly different than most other people my age, and hell, that's a good thing. Most of those young lawyers, most of the people, the 8,000 people that probably signed on to this, we don't have any names and whatever. I don't need to know the names. I don't need to know the ages because I'm thinking that everybody's roughly, give or take, 10 years, my junior or senior. And I know that ideology is getting pushed way the fuck out of the way because once there's the old idea that once a pendulum swings back one way, it swings back just as hard as a correction. And what is it? The young kids coming up, they're the most conservative generation since, the greatest generation since World War II? As bad as this looks right now, like all your new lawmakers and all your new politicians coming in, everybody who's going to be in those corporate institutions coming through Harvard, Yale, all the top law schools right now, all those people that are in power, they're going to get pushed out. But right behind them is another huge wave of kids coming through that are going to be overwhelmingly conservative, overwhelmingly populist, which is definitely a good thing. Not like these, nobody's looking up for inspiration when it comes to guys like Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham. Nobody's looking at them like they're stunning and brave. We're probably just going to have to weather a little bit of a storm for the time being to get on the other side of all of these haphazard pieces of legislation. It won't be an entire wave coming through. I don't want to lead anybody down a path of deception, but you just take a look at the people that are currently in power on both sides of the aisle. They are, 70, 80 years old in Nancy Pelosi's case, okay? Like, these people who shouldn't be in power for much longer because fucking calendar's undefeated, kids. Their time will come, and hopefully they'll be filled by people who have their heads screwed on correctly and not vengeful people that are looking to take people out of the public and private life. And as you can see, we have one more article here because, Hawley and Cruz defended Trump and the integrity of the election in a public sense, but in the private sector and the public face of the Trump campaign was Rudy Giuliani, okay? America's mayor, the last man who actually resided over the biggest domestic terrorist attack, not this past fucking little dog and pony show that happened at Capitol Hill. They're also coming for Rudy, and this is an NPR article, and I'm glad that they didn't choose the fucking run hair dye picture, which, I don't know, everybody's kind of running to the ground at this point, but New York State Bar, which is New York State in and of itself, we've documented extensively, is quite a corrupt place to be, but they're looking at taking away Rudy's bar license. Rudy's a fucking old man at this point, okay? He was mayor of New York 20 years ago, and he's just been shuffling around ever since. He did a really mediocre job as head of Trump's legal team, and, instead of just letting him ride off into the sunset, no, they just want to kick him while he's down. New York State Bar Association is considering expelling Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani as a member because of his his comments ahead of Wednesday's attack on the U.S. Capitol. I'm sure he said, very benign things like Hawley and Cruz and probably Trump as well. But don't let mainstream media tell you any different. I'm sure NPR is probably going to try to trump it up as best as humanly possible. And his efforts for months to cast doubt on the results of our presidential election. Remember, Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time. And in the next 4 years, we're going to be told daily how popular he is by the likes of Rasmussen and Reuters. Oh, not Rasmussen, they might actually tell you the truth. But Reuters and ABC and 587 about how Joe Biden's going to have, a 60 or 75% approval rating? Because, hell, he was more popular than Barack Obama. Bar Association said it received hundreds of complaints in recent months, probably by activists and not legitimate complaints, about Giuliani ultimately deciding Monday to launch a historic inquiry. Before we take off here, I just need to read this a little bit. Yeah, there's a couple of things in here. It's like, okay. Yeah, here's their disbarable quote from Giuliani. If we're wrong, we'll be made fools of, but if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. That's terrible, Giuliani said, according to the Bar Association and other media reports. Let's have trial by combat. What does that mean? Is he actually calling for a direct incitement of violence? No. They could put a K in for combat, and maybe he just wants to play a couple of rounds of Mortal Kombat 11. It's fucking stupid, and NPR's trash. But they just sneak this in at the bottom without a lick of self-awareness. In 2019, Senator Kamala Harris, future Vice President of the United States and probably the 47th president, called on the Bar Association to investigate Giuliani and probably disbar him over his dealings in Ukraine. Oh, yeah, I just can't make this stuff up. Boy, does things just kind of eventually shake out. And it's funny, right? Investigate Giuliani over his dealings in Ukraine. Who was the guy who had Hunter Biden's laptop to begin with? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Democrats are trying to weaponize the legislatures, the state bars, and anything else that's humanly possible. Right now, it's Hawley, Cruz, and Giuliani Tomorrow, it'll probably be Gates and Tuberville and Scalise and whoever else stood up and said anything nice about Trump in the past. And it'll start with disbarring people, and then it'll get to, taking away their accountant's licenses and their little plastic green visors, or taking away Mitch McConnell's abacus that he got when he graduated from law school. Today, it's the vocal supporters. Tomorrow, it'll just be anybody who's ever said anything positive about populism or sent Trump a Christmas card. But yeah, we got to talk about Parler next, so I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.